So in the previous episode, we introduced live steaming, and in this video, we're going to talk about a different fuel, coal. Now, coal is considered very difficult and not a beginner trait, so let's talk about it. Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name's Tim. I'm your host. And when talking about coal tends to really make people a little scared of it. And there are probably a variety of reasons why. Most of it is the fact that it is a solid fuel, obviously. And you really have to pay attention more to what the engine's telling you. Water becomes hypercritical in a coal-fired engine because coal burns at such a higher temperature. I mean, it doesn't even light until 400 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's a big one. So you really have to keep your water in. Second is, you can't light coal with just coal. You have to light something else first, either wood or charcoal, and get that up to temperature, and then you can add coal. The third thing is after you get done with your run, you have to clean the locomotive out, because like cleaning out a charcoal barbecue, there's a lot of ash left over, and we'll get into that too. So this is the cold burning version of the AccuCraft 7/8 scale Forney. So far as I know, there's about 6 or 8 different locomotives that have been offered in the hobby of specifically number 1 gauge, G gauge live steam, that have been offered as either butane, alcohol, and coal, or just butane and coal, this being one of them. The AccuCraft C25 that came out a few years ago was offered as you can get it both ways. Now, there's a Uinta number 50 or 51 in the lead-in video. That's actually a scratch build model, so don't go looking for that one anywhere. And it is coal-fired. Things that you will need and to find, which is not that hard to find, is of course the coal itself. And we use a special coal, and you can't just use any coal for a variety of reasons. One of them is the impurities that are in the coal. When you burn it off, we'll get this metallic / ceramic residue left over at the end. It's called clinker. And what clinker is just kind of, as the ash settles into the pan, this stuff's kind of a goo that will grab onto your grates and will clog the grates. And what you'll have is you'll have cold spots inside the firebox. So what we get is Welsh coal, and we get it generally in this, peanut size or smaller than peanut size bit that will fit into the firebox of the locomotive. That's a key thing, is the firebox opening on these locomotives are quite small, and if you can't fit in the hole, it's not going to burn. So you either got to pound it and crush it, or cut it up, whatever, but you have to make it into the firebox. And the chunks need to be, for this particular sizes of locomotives, whether it's a 7/8 or even a F-scale locomotive, is you need to have it about the size of a pea. And I'm stressing a small pea at that, like a green pea. So it's something you got to be able to fit. If it don't fit in the door, it won't go in. If it doesn't burn, it's too big, you're going to have problems. So it's about consistency of the size of the fuel, and then staying with the fire. I've seen people who I consider well versed in coal firing. Literally, I'll watch them run 1 second, the next minute they're pulling their engine off, and it's like, well, what happened? Well, it just wasn't burning right today. So there is some patience and some learning that needs to happen, even if you're very experienced in the hobby. So that's probably why a lot of people will not even try. And it's too bad, because I've run this engine a few times. It is fun, it is challenging. It's not a fire and forget type locomotive. You do have to stay on it consistently, and that goes from water to fuel to even your lubricator. Control wise, this is just like my other engine. There you have a lubricator on this side, throttle in the middle, there is a blower, and then your reverser is on the engineer side. Now, a couple of things that are on this engine that are not on the number 9 is, if you look under the cab, if you can see it, there's a small valve. That's the bypass valve. So this locomotive has a axle pump. So whenever it's running down the road, in the roadbed, it's pumping water. Well, there's two options. Either goes from the water tank to the pump back to the water tank, or if you close the bypass valve, it goes from the water pump into the boiler. So it's nice to have it. We found out on a couple of times that the water pump, the axle pump, doesn't quite keep up with this locomotive. It's a big boiler, and if you get a good hot fire, you're going to go through water, and so there's to it. And when the pop valves are going off, you just have to stay with it, because the coal does burn a lot hotter. Now, I mentioned a second ago using another fuel to light the coal. So that is actually, we have in this little jar, you can't really see it, I'm not going to open it, but you have regular, almost a mesquite style charcoal that's been chopped up, and then you pour kerosene in it, like a lighter fluid, and this will get you started. Now, the common theory is that if you shovel this into the firebox, obviously when it's cold and not lit, you want to fill it up until the bottom of the fire door on the back of the firebox. And once you get that, maybe you can stick in a shovel full of coal on top and then light it. Now, like the other engine I have, the butane fired, you also will need a suction fan to start out, because there's no draft, so you have to draw it up. There's no burner. Okay, you'll need a shovel, and that's to shovel in. You will need a fire pick. It's kind of small. Okay, let's take a quick aerial view of the locomotive. Again, you can look into the water tank here. You see the hand pump here. And then this little pipe here is actually your bypass valve return. So this is part of the circuit. When the bypass valve is open, it will go from water pump to water pump back to the tank. Now, the way these are plumbed is, even if you're not using the hand pump, all the water gets pulled through the hand pump to the axle pump. It's kind of strange, but that's what they do. You can also see the firebox door and the hole into the firebox. I don't know if you can see my fingers. You can kind of see my fingers wiggling underneath, but it's kind of dark. And then once in the cab, like I said, you have your reverser down here in the corner. You have a blower valve, throttle. Here's your Goodall valve, and of course, a lubricator here. I'll get it here somewhere, right here. So otherwise, it's the same as the butane engine, just there's no gas tank. So anyway, that's a quick tour. Another thing I want to mention, since we were talking about tools in one of the last videos, is in the tool tote. This actually has its own tool tote that we use specifically for the coal-fired engine. It has most of the same tools in it, obviously lighter, and the fuel's a little different, but we keep everything in here, keep separate. We only have the one coal-fired engine right now. We would like to get another one eventually, but it makes it easier to deal with, where if you're going to bring a butane-fired engine, you grab the butane bag. If you're going to grab the coal engine, grab the coal bag. If you're going to grab both, then you do both. So it just makes it a little easier to deal with, and in the long run, you have a lot less headaches. And, oh, do I have that tool with me? Do I have that with me? Oh no, it's all in here. So that makes it a lot easier. One thing I do want to bring up before we wrap up is, after each run, depending on how long you run, you can run virtually all day on coal. You don't have to necessarily, oh, I ran out of fuel, I have to refill and reset. And with a coal engine, you can keep going. You can theoretically keep going all day. The only thing that's going to limit you is you'll have to clean out the lubricator every so often. That will be turning into water. And the other thing you have to do is empty out the ash pan. Those are your only two limiting factors. When you get done, then comes the dirty task of cleanup. And one of the things you need is a long bottle brush, so you can do what's known as punching tubes. So on this locomotive, I don't know about the other ones, you literally have to pry off the entire smoke box face. there's usually a door there, but if you open the door, you're going to find there's another piece of something blocking your way. So you have to pull it off, and then when you pull your ash pan and the grates, that's going to make a nice little mess. So try to do that over something. And then once you start punching the tubes, you knock all the ash and everything else out of your tubes. You're be amazed how much debris gets sucked up out of the firebox through the tubes and into the smoke box on these things. So we basically have a small portable vacuum cleaner that we use specifically for this engine to suck up out all the ash and the what's left of the fuel. So it's a little bit messier. And then we also have a long bottle brush that will work for it. It's not, you don't want to use a softer bristle. You don't want to get too carried away, so you don't scrape the copper tubes too badly. One thing we were using, if nothing else, is there's a, Big Five has a pistol cleaning kit. And, pistols aren't very PC these days, but anyway, it's a pistol cleaning kit that has 3 or 4 calibers, and one of the brushes just happens to be the right size. I think it's 22 caliber or 38, I forget which one, will fit the tubes and do a perfect job. And there's several different bristles. There's a nylon bristle, there's a brass bristle, there's a steel bristle. Now remember, these are copper tubes, so you want to probably use the brass. There's also a T-handle and several extensions, because you got to go in about almost 1.5 feet to get through the tube to take everything out. There's one tube that actually has a superheater in it, which makes cleaning that tube a little more dicey. And it's a process, but it's part of the fun. A lot of people, like I said, a lot of people don't get into coal just because of, oh, it's dirty, it's this, it's different, it's scary. And take a chance on it. Learn your engine, obviously, if you're just getting into the hobby. But later on, as you go, find somebody that knows how to use, burn coal. We have several people in Baggers that know how to do coal. We go to Lodi every year, and there's several other people outside the Baggers that show up, and they have coal, and all of them are more than willing to talk to you about, things to do and the way to fire. Like I said, I've had several people look over my shoulder when I was, firing my son's engine and say, hey, throw a couple of throw a couple shovelfuls in there. Okay, so I did. Worked great. And then a couple minutes later, probably 4 or 5 minutes later, you might want to add another one. Okay, you just keep the fire going. Now, if you're coming down from a larger scale, one of the things you do have to watch is the fireboxes are only about that big. They're only 2 inches square. So in a regular firebox, there's like 9, there's like a checker or a tic-tac-toe board in the bottom of the grate, so to speak, and you want to try to hit each one of those zones. In the G-scale live steam, depending on the engine, it's just make a pile in the middle. So there's a little bit different technique and theories upon how to fire these things. So anyway, thanks for watching, and hope to see you in the next one. Next one, we're going to actually fire up a locomotive and service it. So stay tuned. Again, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. See you later.